In the vast expanse of the Kalahari Desert, where the sun blazes during the day and the nights are cold and unforgiving, there was a kingdom ruled by a woman whose beauty was as striking as the landscape itself. Her name was Naledi, and she was known throughout the land as the Queen of the Desert. Naledi had not been born into royalty. She had risen from humble beginnings, a commoner whose family had struggled to survive in the harsh desert. But even as a young girl, she had always known that she was destined for something greater. Her beauty had drawn attention, but it was her sharp mind and unyielding spirit that set her apart. The kingdom she now ruled had once been in turmoil. The previous king had been a cruel man, ruling with an iron fist, and the people had suffered under his reign. But Naledi had seen an opportunity. She had used her beauty and her intelligence to gain favor with the king, and when the time was right, she had orchestrated his downfall. Some said she had poisoned him, others whispered of dark magic. But no one could deny that she had claimed the throne with a swiftness that left her enemies stunned. Now, as queen, Naledi ruled with a combination of charm and ruthlessness. She was loved by some, feared by many, and respected by all. She had brought peace to the kingdom, but it was a fragile peace, one that could be shattered at any moment. The desert was a harsh and unforgiving place, and the same could be said of the politics that swirled around her court. One day, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the sand, a messenger arrived at the palace. He was covered in dust from his long journey and fell to his knees before Naledi, his voice trembling as he delivered his news. "My queen," he said, "an army approaches from the north. The warlord Kgalema seeks to challenge your rule. He claims that the throne is rightfully his, and he brings with him a force twice the size of our own." Naledi listened carefully, her expression calm. She had heard of Kgalema, a man known for his brutality and ambition. He had been gathering power for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now, it seemed, he had decided that moment had come. "Prepare the warriors," Naledi said, her voice steady. "We will not cower before this man. If he wants my throne, he will have to take it by force." But even as she spoke these words, Naledi knew that this battle would not be won by strength of arms alone. Kgalema's army was too large, too powerful. She would need to use every ounce of her cunning if she was to survive. That night, as the palace slept, Naledi walked alone through the halls, her mind racing. She knew she could not fight Kgalema head-on. But perhaps there was another way. She had always relied on her intelligence, her ability to see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. And now, she would need to do so again. The next morning, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Naledi summoned her advisors to the throne room. They were a mix of warriors, scholars, and diplomats, each one chosen for their loyalty and their skill. They bowed low before her, waiting for her to speak. "Kgalema comes for us," she said, her voice clear and strong. "But we will not fight him in the open. We will not meet him on his terms. Instead, we will draw him into the desert, where his numbers mean nothing and the land itself will fight against him." Her advisors listened carefully, nodding as she laid out her plan. The Kalahari was a harsh mistress, and only those who knew its secrets could survive its endless dunes and scorching sun. Naledi had grown up in this desert, she knew its ways better than anyone. And now, she would use that knowledge to her advantage. As her people prepared for war, Naledi sent out scouts to monitor Kgalema's movements. She knew that he would be eager to take the palace, to claim the throne as his own. But she would not make it easy for him. When Kgalema's army finally arrived, they found the palace gates wide open, the courtyard empty. It was as if the kingdom had simply vanished into the desert. Confused but undeterred, Kgalema ordered his men to spread out, to search the palace and the surrounding area. But they found nothing. No sign of Naledi, no sign of her warriors. Frustrated, Kgalema led his army deeper into the desert, determined to find his quarry. But as the days wore on, the harsh realities of the Kalahari began to take their toll. The sun beat down mercilessly, sapping the strength of Kgalema's men. The sandstorms whipped across the land, blinding them and scattering their formations. And all the while, Naledi watched from the shadows, her warriors striking at Kgalema's forces with precision and speed. They knew the desert well, and they used it to their advantage, picking off Kgalema's men one by one. But Naledi knew that this war would not be won through skirmishes alone. She needed to confront Kgalema directly, to show him that she was not afraid. And so, one night, as the full moon rose over the desert, she left the safety of her camp and rode out to meet him. Kgalema was camped near a small oasis, his army weary and demoralized. He was surprised when Naledi appeared before him, alone and unarmed. But he was also intrigued. He had heard of the queen of the desert, of her beauty and her cunning. And now, here she was, standing before him, as if she had no fear of him or his army. "You are brave to come here alone," Kgalema said, his voice low and threatening. "But bravery will not save you. Surrender now, and perhaps I will show you mercy." Naledi smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that made Kgalema pause. "Mercy," she said, her voice soft but filled with confidence. "You speak of mercy as if it is yours to give. But you are the one who is lost in this desert, Kgalema. You are the one whose men are dying of thirst and heat. And I am the queen of this land. You are in my domain now." Kgalema's eyes narrowed, but Naledi could see the doubt flicker across his face. He was a man of strength, a man who had won battles through sheer force. But this was different. The desert was different. And Naledi had made sure he felt its full weight. "You have a choice, Kgalema," Naledi continued. "You can continue this fight, and watch your men die one by one. Or you can turn back now, leave this land, and I will let you live." For a long moment, Kgalema said nothing. He stared at Naledi, his mind racing. He was not a man who backed down easily. But he was also not a fool. He could see the truth in Naledi's words. His army was broken, defeated not by battle, but by the desert itself. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, a queen of the desert. You have won this round. But know this, I will not forget this day. And one day, I will return." Naledi watched as Kgalema and his remaining men retreated into the night, disappearing into the endless dunes. She knew that this victory was not the end. There would always be more challenges, more enemies. But for now, she had protected her kingdom, her people. As she rode back to the palace, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, Naledi allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. She had once been a girl with nothing, just another face in the crowd. But now, she was a queen, and her name would be remembered for generations to come.